I'm Sean Pierce, and this is a Hawk Moment. It's the season of fright full of witches and warlocks, haunted houses, trick-or-treating, and of course candy. This show will cover the ins and outs of Halloween. Today we will be bringing you 3 different stories of horror during Halloween. We will be sharing with you a story of phobias and people's personal fears. Then we will be telling a story of The Shining with our twist. But first, we will share with you a telling of The Raven. Come with us on this tour of fears and tears with a moment in Hawk horror. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing. Edgar Allan Poe wrote The Raven in 1845. It's known for its musicality and styled writing and gives off a supernatural atmosphere. It's a narrative poem talking about a raven's unnatural trip to a distressed lover and follows his trip into madness.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly had I sought to borrow from my books who creased in sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore. For the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore.
Good Lord, Catherine!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I scare you?
Nameless here, forevermore. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the darkness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word Lenore. Merely this and nothing more. Back into my chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. Let me see then what the thread is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, 'tis the wind and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when with many flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obscenest made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mane of lord and lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling turned my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim, an ancient raven wandering the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on this night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the pallid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Be that word our sign in parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked up starting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door, take thy beak out of my heart and take thy form off of my door.
Quoth the raven, nevermore. Next stop on our tour, we will be telling a story of The Shining. The Shining was released on May 23rd, 1980. It is a British-American psychological film based on the novel by Stephen King. It's about a family that makes their way to an isolated hotel for the winter. While there, an evil presence takes hold of the father, then drives him into a fit of violence. I present to you a Hawk Moment's The Assigning.
do you like it?
Oh, God, Catherine, listen. We need to talk about Sean.
Oh, do we?
Yes?
What about Sean?
He's not doing any of the work. If he doesn't step it up, we're gonna fail.
Are you concerned about him?
Yes?
Are you concerned about me?
Of course I am.
Of course you are. Do you have any idea what kind of situation I'm in right now?
What?
All the hours of sleep I've lost, picking up the slack for you two. Do you have any idea what's going to happen in my future if I
Whoa.
if
Calm
I
down,
fail this
Catherine.
project?
Catherine, calm down. Just stay away from me.
Give me the bat, Jen. Stop swinging that. at me.
Stop it. I'm serious.
Jen, give me the bat. Give me the bat.
Leave me alone.
Give me the bat.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Jen.
Catherine.
Jen.
Catherine.
Whoa. Wait a second. I feel like I've seen this before.
What are you talking about?
There's like this really famous horror film. I think it stars Jack Nicholson.
Are you talking about The Shining?
Yeah, that's it. Weird how that just worked out. All right. Anyways, back to work.
Spiders, clowns, snakes, haunted houses. All of these things that people can be afraid of. On this stop on our tour, we'll be talking with Dr. Ron Eskew. He is the Director of Institutional Research and Assessment at Hilbert College. He will discuss some fears and phobias, and we will also be talking with Jen about some of her fears. I'll leave you with that.
Phobias are irrational fears of specific objects or situations. The fear in a phobia is a very intense experience, almost akin to panic. But it's also important to note that, we all have fears, and fears are in and of themselves not unusual.
I have fears, like most people do. They range from the usual to the unusual. I wouldn't call them phobias, though, because they really don't interfere with my life.
In fact, a majority of people can identify at least some specific fears they have. What makes it a phobia is, first of all, that it is irrational, out of proportion to what would be a realistic danger. Second is that it also interferes in a significant way in the person's functioning, their ability to do the things that are important to themselves in their life. And with phobias also, the person recognizes that the fear is at an irrational level.
I've had these fears ever since I was a little kid. Some of them I've outgrown, and some of them I still have to this day. I absolutely hate spiders, mice, snakes, anything that crawls. I even hate butterflies. It's pretty sad, but true.
One could experience a wide range of phobias. Certainly, Halloween is about, to some extent, scaring ourselves, at least to some degree, because that can be stimulating. Just kind of having that fear response. Now, with Halloween, most of the time, what we're trying to do is to subject ourselves to things that might make us fearful, but in a controlled way.
The one fear I think that really affects me the most is fear of people in costumes. Ever since I was little, I hated sitting on Santa's lap and the Easter Bunny's lap. I would cry and bawl until my mom took me away, because you don't know who's under there. I especially hate people with full facial masks and stuff like that, like Disney World. While it may be the children's playland, to me it's like sometimes a horror, because everybody dresses up in costumes and you don't know who's under there, so it really freaks me out.
If a person had certain kinds of phobias, there would be circumstances during Halloween that might trigger some of those phobias. Some of the most common phobias, for example, are fear of animals like snakes or spiders or mice or potentially bats, I suppose. So for most people, it would just simply be kind of avoiding the scary movies on TV, not going to the haunted house, only trick-or-treating with children who have relatively non-threatening costumes, and kind of avoiding a lot of the other kinds of stimuli around that, and that would be what they would probably do. It just, again, would not be their favorite holiday.
I guess I just manage them by just staying away from the things that really scare me the most. I mean, I have the normal fears like death, dying, losing people you love, having things happen to people that you care about, but other than that, I think I just have only several fears that really, I think, affect my life, but not so much in general that I can't function. But those are my fears.
After reading the narrative poem, The Raven, heading to the library to watch The Assigning, And stopping by Dr. Ron Eskew's office, where we learn different phobias and fears of Halloween, we've concluded that Halloween can be a fun and scary time. October 31st, Halloween. The day where people test their fears. How far can you go before you actually get scared? This has been a Hawk Moment in horror. Stay tuned for the next episode.